The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome to the Founders Day Ceremony Celebration, a How-Tos for the Chapters webinar. My name is Amanda Rufo, and I will be your technical producer and moderator this evening. This webinar will be presented by Suzanne Vanderheyden, Fraternity Ritual Chairman. Our goal is to provide you with the how-tos for a successful and meaningful Founders Day celebration. I'd like to turn the virtual microphone over to Suzanne now. Suzanne?
Thank you, Amanda. My name is Suzanne Vanderheyden, and I am the Fraternity Ritual Chairman, and I'm very excited to be presenting this webinar along with Amanda Rufo, who serves as Province Director of Chapters Pine North. This webinar has been requested by the chapter team as they felt that chapter women would appreciate a refresher to better understand the nuances of celebrating Founders Day, and B, some basic chapter information on Founders Days and ways to celebrate this historical event in our fraternity. I want you to take a minute to think. Did your chapter celebrate Founders Day last year? Is it a part of your chapter calendar? Every chapter is encouraged to celebrate Founders Day annually, as it is a part of our fraternity history and heritage. Celebrating Founders Day reminds us of the values of our fraternity. Another question for you. When do you think would be the best time to celebrate Founders Day? Is it A, right after initiation, so the newly initiated members may learn all about our founders? B, when it falls in the time of our new member program, the Fraternity Heritage Education section? C, any time is fine to celebrate Founders Day. Or D, in the fall, around the date of our founding, October 13th. The answer is D, around the time of our founding, October 13th. For many of you, this coincides with the new member education period, so you can use this as your fraternity education piece. It does not have to be exactly on the 13th, but near around that date would be great. Okay, next question. Is the Founders Day ceremony secret? Now this one really stumbles people. The answer is, it is not secret. So let's take a minute to think about that. It is okay, in fact, it is encouraged to have your newly pledged members witness this ceremony. It is a wonderful time for the new members to learn about our very special founding. There is one secret addition that many chapters use at the end of the ceremony, and that is concluding the service with the Mystic Circle. That is secret. So if you have uninitiated members, you can excuse them at the end of the Founders Day ceremony and before the Mystic Circle, or you can just not include the Mystic Circle at the end of your celebration. It's your choice. How many of you celebrate Founders Day with alumni members? This might be members of your local alumni association, or it might be that you invite local advisors. If you have local alumni in the area, whether that be from a local alumni association or your advisory board, it's always wonderful to share Founders Day with them. In this slide, or in this webinar, we will first cover why we celebrate Founders Day, how to celebrate, and ways to make Founders Day a special event for your chapter. Every chapter is encouraged to celebrate Founders Day on or around the 13th of October. It is an all-chapter event and may be as simple as performing the ceremony after a chapter meeting or after a formal dinner, or as elaborate as holding a large event at a local country club with hundreds, both active members and alumni, in attendance. When we celebrate Founders Day, we recognize and celebrate the founding of our fraternity and the 6 amazing women who had the vision to begin Kappa Kappa Gamma. Let's take a look at them. Mary Moore Minnie Stewart was the first to think of organizing a Greek letter fraternity for women at Monmouth. She served as the first president of this fraternity, and it was at her parents' home that the charter signing occurred. Her father was a judge, and it was assumed that it was he who filed their charter at the county courthouse. Minnie was extremely well liked on campus and was described as a sunny temperament, most intelligent and fearless, a wonderful, loyal friend. Minnie was the first to marry and become a mother. Minnie Stewart died at the age of 46 from complications after surgery. She is buried at Monmouth Cemetery with her 2 children who predeceased her as they passed in their childhood, one of whooping cough and the other of spinal meningitis. The Stewart House is part of our wonderful 2 museums. If you are ever in Monmouth, Illinois, you must visit it. It is a beautiful home, well maintained by the Kappa Kappa Gamma Foundation and local alumni. Anna Elizabeth Willits. It is believed that it is her mother that came up with the idea of the key for our badge. She said it was to lock up your secrets. Now we all know that is not what the key stands for. It does not lock up our secrets. You will find the meaning on page 37 in your book of ritual, and you may share the meaning with your initiated members. Her badge, housed at the Heritage Museum at fraternity headquarters, is the only badge that we have of the founders, and was donated by her granddaughter, who was a Kappa. It is interesting to look at the many Kappa badges displayed in the Heritage Museum in Columbus, as they are all different sizes and have different stones in them. The badge was not made a standard size until 1924. And the present-day badge was patented for Kappa in 1974. Hannah Jeanette Boyd. She is described as having great executive ability and a keen analytical mind. She was one of the original 4 and presided over the first Alpha Business meeting during which the badges were ordered, and she is credited with selecting the fraternity colors blue and blue. Jenny Boyd graduated from Monmouth in 1872, and a few years later received a master's degree. She never married. Mary Louise Bennett, one of the original 4 that decided to form the organization, motto, and badge. This brings up a good point because we all know that there were 6 founders, but really we started with 4, Stewart, Bennett, Boyd, and Willits, and then they added Walker and Stevenson. All 6 marched into chapel to announce the beginning of their fraternity. Bennett lost both of her parents early in her life and was sent to Monmouth to live with her uncle. She attended the reinstallation of Alpha Chapter in 1934 and has provided the fraternity with a great deal of fraternity history. She died in 1947 at the age of 94. Susan Burley Walker. She was the youngest Kappa and the first initiate. She was initiated in her own home at the young age of 14. She had a tremendous love of science and music, but is most remembered for her true beauty. She became the first alumna leaving school without a degree. 4 years later, she married a Presbyterian minister, had 2 girls, and passed at the age of 41. Martha Louisa Stevenson. The first Alpha Business meeting to discuss the badge and select a jeweler was held in Lou Stevenson's home. She did not sign the charter because she had lost her galoshes, and it was a rainy night. The first Alpha Social Real Party took place in her home on Halloween 1872. She is described by her peers as being one of eternal youth, taking life not too seriously and being somewhat mischievous. She lived well into her 80s, was a member of the Kansas City Alumni Association, and a great resource for our historical records. We have her large, sheepskinned original diploma displayed in the Heritage Museum. Would you like to guess what her major was? What do you think? Education, home economics, art history? She received a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics and philosophy. At the time these women were establishing Kappa Kappa Gamma, women were being admitted into colleges. They did not take the same courses as the men, as it was felt that the men's courses were much too strenuous for women, except at Monmouth College. At Monmouth, women were admitted to the same classes as the men. And so do you see that for the women to compete academically with the men, they needed and wanted what the men had, fraternities. They wanted a fraternity for women to promote social and academic excellence. In the early years, our members used their fraternity to critique their papers and other academic exercises. The announcement of our founding is documented in the school's local paper. On October 13, 1870, our 6 founders entered the Monmouth Chapel wearing tiny golden keys. Some of the keys, as you saw in the earlier pictures, were worn in their hair, some on their lapels. They waited for everyone to fill the chapel, and then they entered to walk all the way to the front to take their seats. The men's organizations whooped and hollered, and the excitement in the chapel was palpable. In fact, Jeanette Boyd, one of our founders, said, "We were so excited and proud, everything seemed different. Even the people, the building, the classroom seemed changed. We had started something all by ourselves." How do we transfer the excitement of our founders marching into chapel announcing Kappa Kappa Gamma to our members? Well, let's start with the Founders Day ceremony. You will find it on page 83 of the Book of Ritual. I will say again at this point that even though it is in the Book of Ritual, it is not secret. As an education chairman, please ask your marshal or your chapter president to borrow the Book of Ritual so that you can become familiar with the ceremony and its properties. If you have a Book of Ritual in front of you, turn to page 83 and follow along. You will need a table and 6 battery-operated candles. Have the speaking parts on cards numbered appropriately. Choose your speakers from the members present. If you are doing the ceremony with alumni present, you may want to include them as a representative of your participants. It may be a time that you recognize leaders or past leaders of the association, leaders or upcoming leaders in your chapter. The presiding officer stands behind the table with her speakers on either side, and they speak alternating speaker 1 on one side, then speaker 2 on the other side, etc. Each person raises her candle when she speaks, and you will notice at the end of the ceremony that the presiding officer gives the age of the fraternity, the number of chapters, the number of alumni association, and number of members. You will find this statistic on the Kappa website, so please do look for that before your presentation. Now let's go into this just in a little bit more detail. You see the lineup of the speakers. Stewart is number 1, and she is to the far right of the presiding officer. Boyd is next, and she is to the far left of the presiding officer. And the presiding officer is in the middle. Each founder is represented by a member, and when she raises her candle, she reads the script from the Book of Ritual. For example, the first Kappa raises her candle and says, "I raise this candle in memory of Mary Moore Stewart, the first to think of organizing a Greek letter fraternity for women at Monmouth College. She served as the first president of Alpha Chapter and the fraternity as Kappa chapters were founded on other campuses." And then the other readers read, "Do not add or delete anything from this brief ceremony." After the presiding officer closes the ceremony with the statistics of number of years old, number of chapters, number of alumni associations, and number of members, and then she says, "Kappa Kappa Gamma, the inspiration of our ideals and the foundation of our ever-growing circle of friendship." If everyone is in attendance is an initiated Kappa, and if it's feasible, close with the song, "Now, Dear Sisters," and the Mystic Circle. If you choose to close with the Mystic Circle and you have uninitiated or non-members in the audience, then simply state that all uninitiated members are excused to the foyer and that you will join them momentarily. Then you close with the Mystic Circle. If your space does not allow for a Mystic Circle or you choose not to close with the Mystic Circle, then your celebration simply ends with the last quote from the presiding officer. The ceremony is very brief, lasting less than 10 minutes. Now, let's talk about how to celebrate. there is a simple ceremony that, let me back this up. There is a simple celebration, which could mean that you could perform the ceremony after a formal dinner or brunch. After a chapter meeting is a good idea, as everyone is assembled, so there's no reason why you can't do the ceremony at that time. If you have alumni in the area, invite them to participate in your service. Another idea is to have a dessert held at the chapter facility or facility on campus. Again, local alumni may be invited. Create a program that introduces new members, advisors, and any noteworthy achievements of the chapter, and then close with the Founders Day ceremony. A more elaborate idea is a brunch, lunch, or dinner at a local restaurant, location on campus, or country club. A meal is served, program is established, which usually includes recognition of academic excellence, introduction of new members, recognition of advisors and local alumni leaders. Alumni or chapter awards recently received at province meeting or convention are announced, and other noteworthy achievements. Some chapters are very close proximity to one another and will enjoy a Founders Day celebration together. Celebrating with a meal together, an organized program, and finishing with the Founders Day ceremony would be a great event. Finally, some chapters live near organized alumni associations. If that is the case, contact the association president found on the CAPA website and offer to work together to plan a celebration. Celebrating with alumni members is a win-win. Your chapter members see firsthand the excitement and sisterly bonds through alumni, and the alumni are inspired by the enthusiasm and accomplishments of the new members of our fraternity. So you can see that there are many great Founders Day. Very important note, please do not include alcohol in your celebration. Now, how to plan your event. The properties needed are Book of Ritual, 6 battery-operated candles, tables, speakers, and speaker parts. You will need to secure the location, time, and define your participants, which will be chapter members and possibly advisors or local alumni. Decide on food service. Will there be a need for transportation? Does this stay within your budget? And of course, the program. You may sing a song at the beginning, introductions, guest speaker, recognize new members, recognize outstanding achievements, Founders Day ceremony, and then perhaps close with the song. Lastly, remember that Founders Day is a special and somewhat serious celebration. Do not add or subtract from the actual ceremony. You may use our fraternity history and historical facts found on the CAPA website during your celebration, but please do not add them into the actual ceremony. Are there any further questions? Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to learn about Founders Day. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions, and enjoy celebrating our founders in CAPA's very rich tradition.
Thank you to our presenter, Suzanne, for leading tonight's session. If you have any questions or comments about tonight's topic, you may email Suzanne directly at svanderhe@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us this evening, and have a great night.